James still talking about mathematics, still eating his food, and I'm going to weigh today's harvest. Oh, and I forgot to get the ones on the steps, so I'll be right back. James will be talking to you here. If I can find a place to put this thing. I don't know how I had it before. There we go. Go ahead, James.
Well, we left off somewhere around the section on Turing. He's known for coming up with the Turing test, trying to determine whether artificial intelligence, something like that, computer is intelligent. Well, not artificial, whether a computer is like artificial. Public key cryptography explains how you can kind of carry things on in secret if you have a long enough code. Most people don't. But generally, it's understood you should get something like around 20. Symbols, preferably not just numerals. Other things to be found on a keyboard, shifts, so on and so forth. Could the flapping of a butterfly's wing cause a hurricane? Taste of the 20th century will be Mandelbrot. I think that means almond bread in German. But looking at his name, Benoit, it's French for Benedict, I'm pretty sure, which means blessed. Benedictus, probably in the original Latin. And so, yeah. So he worked at the Collège de France. He was born in Warsaw, Poland. I wouldn't be surprised if he were of Jewish extraction on his dad's side. Who knows what his first name would have been? Baruch, maybe? That means Baruch, or Baruch means blessed. In Hebrew. I've studied that, Who knows? So, talks about coastlines. Here's a couple pictures of graphics of Mandelbrot set. Fractal landscapes. Oh yeah, coastlines and fractals.
These ones aren't as red as I thought they were. These ones. So, let's copy those first.
Talk about a guy called Feigenbaum. That's actually German for fig tree. Feigenbaum's kind of elliptic curves, I should say. Important for Wales, I'm not mistaken, Wales. Proof for Moss last year. Elliptic curve nomograms. Elliptic curve for cryptography. All of a sudden we're on to the Wiles here, looking wily there. Yeah, I don't. Got to come up with a more succinct proof than 100 or so pages. Over 100. I don't know if it says here how many. I think he put in. Wiles' proof was completed in 1994. Said, I thought it was 1995. Could be wrong. Probably. Off by 1 year. What the heck? Taming of the Messy Gauss finds a missing dwarf planet behind the sun. It doesn't exist. I guess that's supposed to be Vulcan. Estimates of data, Carl Friedrich Gauss. I think he was a scientist as well as a mathematician.
Got some big ones today.
Holy smokes, look at that.
Good size ones are right.
British physician Dr. John Snow saved a lot of lives, or could have. He found out, what was that? Was it cholera that was a problem in London? He figured out that people were dying from pumps.
Oh, the
in
water, yeah.
Yeah, cholera. Anyway, 1854, roughly, doing this job. Apparently,
That was specific. Wells or something. Okay.
so sadly, the Board of Guardians, so this would be London, I guess, reattached the handle as soon as the outbreak had receded. Snow's theory that there was something in the water that caused cholera was simply too unpleasant to contemplate. Pretty sad. Florence Nightingale. Okay, does she really belong in, you know, Florence Nightingale?
Yeah.
Mathematics. What's going on here? Put Hypatia in there. Now, she did use a diagram of casualties, fatalities in the army and stuff like that. So,
Yeah, that sounds like they were just desperate to put a woman in there.
well, like I say, they didn't put a real mathematician, Hypatia, in there.
I wonder why they didn't.
I have no idea. Guinness Company's trade secrets, so more statistics. Abraham Vault and the Lost Planes, so this would be looking at why planes were shot down. Some survived getting all shot up without being shot down. So that's it. Okay, buffons and needles, so this is more stuff having to do with stats. His real name was Leclerc, that would be the clerk, but he was a count of Buffon. So that's what we call him, Buffon. I'd rather call him Leclerc. I don't believe it's count things. Comte is the way it's said in French, roughly, very roughly. Okay. Galton's ox. Here's one of the creeps of history. They call him Sir, I think, Francis Galton. I think he was semi-related to Darwin. They're both racists. Yeah, they call him Sir Francis Galton. Died in 1911. Unfortunately, he didn't die of embarrassment. So he was a very clever man, they say here, with some extremely obnoxious ideas. You can't be that clever if you've got obnoxious ideas. He's a great proponent, they say, of eugenics. In fact, he came up with the word, which rather clouds his achievements. It's a pity even people with awful ideas can still come up with good ones. This is true. This is why we don't use ad hominem, or try not to use ad hominem arguments against stuff. Otherwise, you wouldn't use fingerprinting. Did he come up with fingerprinting? Someone did. Maybe him.
Someone did. Yeah, I guess you want to look up things for yourself, right?
Yeah, well, I'm inviting people. I challenge them to look up whatever I say here. You know what I'm saying? I try not to just go, and say this, that, and the other. Yeah, someone did around that time. Curse of Sports Illustrated, Modern Heroes. So here are people looking very unheroic. Okay.
Oh, I don't know.
Paul Erdos. Here's the guy. I think a biography written of him, not an autobiography. Paul Erdos. So they probably say Erdos, but Erdos is probably how it says. It means forester, actually, in Hungarian. Pole is probably how they say his name. But he died recently. But 1996. That's recent for me. But someone said, well, the title of one of his biographies, maybe his only one, was the man who loved only numbers. So what he'd do is he'd realize someone was working on a problem, and he'd go and offer his help. And generally he'd help him out. There was one guy who didn't appreciate the help, but that's only after the thing got solved. I think the guy was saying, hey, I solved this on my own. Yeah, well, Erdos just had a record of helping solve things.
About 7 pounds today.
And folks, if you actually want to use your mind on something, look at how thin this guy was. Okay, there's another picture of him. Your mind has a hard time working if you're lugging around a huge ton of weight. No,
if you have
no,
a
I'm
body
not talking,
like Pugsley Adams
no,
here.
I'm not talking about but, you know, the other thing is you got to get out and walk. What did you do this morning, first thing?
That's right, I did walk.
A lot more than I did. I ended up talking to someone. But, yeah, so, of course, what I want them to put on my tombstone is the man who loved only everything. Anyway, I love numbers, but just not much more than anything else. Anyway, Sri Nivasa Ramanujan, I think is where the accent comes. So here's, we'll get lots of people saying, oh man, people coming from third world countries, they can't do anything because they've got no access to this, that, and the other thing, books, so on and so forth. This guy, apparently, I think it might have been an engineering book. Now he came from the Brahmin class, so he's educated or something like that. Well, I don't know if this guy memorized it or whatnot, but he turns up in England, you know, I don't know, hat in hand or something like that. And he goes sees England's maybe top mathematician, a guy called G.H. Hardy. And maybe, what was the name of, was it Littlewood or something like that, hung with Hardy. Kind of a lesser like, but those guys kind of, now apparently Ramanujan wasn't very good with proofs, but he had a good intuitive sense for mathematics. Mathematics is not just about proofs. Fact is, I think it's important, maybe more important, to actually come up with problems or things that you can, like Riemann will be still considered a great mathematician even when someone proves his hypothesis or disproves it. They don't even have Riemann in here. I don't know if they even mentioned Grigory Perelman. So this is, folks, you guys are born in the 21st century, this millennium. This is a guy who actually did something this century. Took one of the big problems, unsolved problems in mathematics, and he came up with a proof. And that's in, I don't know when that was. It was before 1911, I think, 2011, 2003. The Poincaré conjecture. He proved. Emily Noether, one of the most influential mathematicians of the 20th century, they say. Okay, yeah, there we go. Yeah. So she had trouble with her early career in Göttingen, it says here. So here's E. Landau. That's not Martin Landau, who was in sci-fi things, TV or whatever. I can testify that Noether is a great mathematician, but that she is a woman, that I can't swear. I don't know what he meant by that, but sounds vaguely dismissive. Anyway, maybe not. Mariam Mirza Khan. She's presented with the 2014 Fields Medal in Seoul by South Korea's President Park Geun-hye. Mirza Khan was the first woman to receive the award, so that's pretty late, but 2014, that's 11 years ago. Anyway, that's good. Was she Mirza Khan? I'm guessing she was Iranian or something like that. Okay, they don't actually say, but works out at Stanford, it says that. Nicholas Bourbaki didn't really exist. He's just a code for a bunch of people put together like an encyclopedia of mathematics. John Horton Conway. There you go, okay. Has popularized mathematical games. He also makes serious contributions to the number theory, I hope so, for him to be in this book. Martin Gardner. Oh, now we are really plunging the depths. Is this the way they end it with? Okay, Isaac Asimov on Martin Gardner. You're in the same racket. Yeah, you're right. As I am, you just read books by the professors and rewrite them, of course. So Martin Gardner and Isaac Asimov too, but particularly Martin Gardner, they were horrible pukes in the Velikovsky affair. They weren't the initial people, but they followed up along with Carl Sagan and a host of others. And Martin Gardner is one of the stupidest doofuses to ever come down the pipe, because he was involved in crushing new ideas. Velikovsky, of course, got things wrong when he was saying Venus and Mars came close to the Earth, almost wiped the world out and stuff like that. But one thing Velikovsky says, I believe it's introduction to Worlds in Collision, he says something to the effect that catastrophes have occurred in historical times, and the agents of those catastrophes can be identified. He's right about both those things. He misidentified the agents, but there we go. We've got, generally, when people make advances in science, not so much in mathematics, but advances in science, they're going to make mistakes. And the important thing is to find out where those mistakes are and progress from there. But you got to be able to recognize where the advances are. And Velikovsky, 30 years after the scientists were saying catastrophism doesn't happen, almost to the day they're saying, oh, well, we knew it all along. Velikovsky said, like he said about his theories, that the initial reaction would be no way, and then maybe. But he should have said that really doesn't last. It would be the second stage instead of the third stage. Would be, we knew it all along. So yeah, they found a radioactive layer of Earth, underneath the Earth actually, in Gubbio, Italy, and they subsequently found it everywhere around the world where they've looked. And they're saying, oh, there's layers lower than that. There's dinosaur remains. Above it, no dinosaur remains, aside from Donald Trump's ancestors. And, something hit the world. They've identified the impact site. I think there might have been several impact sites, and it was probably just a very large comet that split up. But they found something that happened basically in the border between, I think it's the Gulf of Mexico, not so much the Caribbean, and the Yucatan Peninsula. Huge crater. And they're saying that the fallout from that wiped out the dinosaurs, and that if that wasn't sufficient, there would have been other things. And, dinosaurs and other things, lots of different species. So that's 30 years after Velikovsky. Oh yeah, the catastrophism happened, but 65 million years ago. It doesn't happen now. Definitely not historical times. And now geologists are coming around and saying, oh well, maybe Younger Dryas, about 10,000 years ago, all the mastodons and the mammoths, they got wiped out. But that's before history. But that's a big difference between 65 million years ago, 10,000 years ago. And they're going to have to, well, they don't have to eat crow, because that's ultimately what this is all about. It's not what is said, but who gets to say it. And it's the professionals, as in professors and stuff like that. Before them, it used to be leaders or misleaders of various churches and religious groups and stuff like that. But now it's professors. They've taken over that function of defending the status quo. Why? Because they've got their place in the status quo. They are they're invested in it. Right? If these ideas, new ideas, are accepted too quickly, well, they're obsolete. They'll fight it, kicking and screaming all the way. It's hilarious. I started looking at Velikovsky 6 years before these guys, and they did good work from what I can tell. Alvarez and his son, Gubbio, Italy, and elsewhere. But 6 years before. And so that's 1974. 4 years later, I picked Velikovsky up again, and I'm saying, yeah, what's happened in the meantime? Yeah, Cretaceous Tertiary boundary event been discovered. I'm going, yeah, maybe there's more to this than I thought. And kept following it up ever since. With lots of other things. Don't get the idea that I've just, kind of wasted all my life following up on that. There's a lot of stuff to be found there. There's a lot of stuff to be rejected. There's a lot of stuff to be checked out. And frankly, there's a lot of stuff there to be actually that's been borne out. Oh, a few that you didn't weigh or something like that. So,
I think I weighed them. I
okay.
just forgot to.
How are we doing for time? Anyway, what I want to say about the Mathematics Bible is I went through this in detail. It's not recommended for someone who has a good background in mathematics, much less a great background. But, if you want to interest a kid in mathematics or stuff like that, or whatever, if you want to get interested in mathematics, start picking it up. It might be 50 years old. I've made discoveries into my 70s. You can actually make discoveries. You can actually make a contribution. But when you hear people saying, oh, all mathematical discoveries have been made before a guy was 25, all scientific discoveries were made before a guy or gal was 25, that's the people who tend to be dominant in social situations. They're oldest brothers. And their minds work differently from other people. They're not plastic like people who are born later on in a family. Their minds are basically made up at age 25. Well, what time? How much?
7 minutes.
7 minutes. So, yeah, get on the stick. Stop spending time on the internet, like watching this. No, watch this sort of stuff. Or, for Pete's sake, don't watch other stuff.
Did you eat any tomatoes?
No, not yet.
Oh,
But
okay.
I think I will. Like we try to challenge your mind. We try to tell you how to grow food that'll help with brain functioning. We talk about our hikes and stuff like that. Believe me, walking, any sort of exercise, unless it's done to repletion, shall we say, is going to improve brain functioning. So get out there and do it. But actually, read a book. So I'm recommending you read this book, unless you already know this kind of mathematics, and try to get inspired by some of the things in here. Maybe more than one thing. Why can't you be late developing Powell Erdos? Come on. I think his real name is P-A-L, Powell. P-A-L, but we call it Paul or Paul. Paul would be the Paul. Powell would be the German pronunciation. Paul, I think the Hungarian pronunciation. So, there he is. I think he's making contributions when he was this age. Go for it. Look at him there. Why can't you be like him? Make contributions in a variety of different fields. Come up with something new. Come up with something different. You don't have to check out what I maintain and stuff like that in a variety of fields. But if you want to go somewhere, come listen to some new ideas, like my ideas. Check them up. Put an X beside them. Put a red check mark beside them. Beside some of them. I'd be a bit disappointed if you put a red check mark beside all of them, or a big black X by all of them. Do some independent thinking of me, but particularly of these folks who, on your coin, especially here in Canada, are squatting up in ivory towers, and they're squatting on you and me, folks. You might not realize it, but they're squatting. I don't have to tell you what kind of squatting they're doing. What they're doing while they're squatting. They're squatters, but they're also squatting. I'll talk about some of these other things. I'm going to show you a bit because we've got, 4 minutes left? So some of the things to expect. Tom Sawyer and Huckleberry Finn, Mark Twain, gone through them for a second time in my life. I probably went through them before I was 10 years old, and now that I'm approaching, or maybe even am in my second childhood, there we go, back to Mark Twain. They actually call him Mark Twain. I'll be covering some of those later. Webster's New World Pocket Geographical Dictionary. About over 6,000 place names in here. Just going through there and saying, do I know where these things are? You know what I'm saying? Hampstead. Is it in here? Hampstead. I've lived in Hampstead Heath. Well, I stayed there for a couple of weeks. Hampstead Heath. Very nice. Southern part of London. Near Greenock. Or Greenwich, if you want to mispronounce it properly. Kublai Khan. They call it Kublai Khan. You say Kublai Khan, right? Anyway, memoirs of the Second World War. Abridged. Winston Churchill. The Baptist Way. Like history of the Baptist movement. It's pretty, it's awesome. It's also awesomely boring, but that's because that religion is relatively civilized. Contract on America, and I've already touched on that, Leon Panetta there and stuff like that, but I'll be talking a lot more about the Contract on America, even though I'll be reviewing it for you folks. Lots of fun things to look forward to. So, what, 2.5 minutes?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Today we ran across, can I talk about the cyclist, or do you want to talk about that on your own?
Yeah, why don't you say what he said about me? Oh, but don't say swear words if he said swear words.
Yeah, well, he was saying that he was thinking you were a itch with a little bit extra.
But he didn't say that.
He was so civilized he didn't say it. So, folks, if you like cycling, stay out of nature preserve areas.
Where cycling isn't allowed.
Where cycling isn't allowed. In Lethbridge or wherever. You're not allowed there. If you want to cycle there, get out there and change the laws. This is what we do in a democracy. They talk about democracy being having the rule of law. If you don't like the law, get out there and change it. If you don't like the speed limit, get out and change the law so it's like in France, where you can drive, you set your own limit or whatever. Get out there and change the law. That's what you do in a democracy. If you can't do it, then do something or other bad. So Pauline will, I think, have more to say about this fellow. It was funny because Pauline and I got separated. I got talking to a very nice guy. And this guy comes along on a bike. And he'd been off-roading. He wasn't even on a prepared trail. I think he's on the prepared trail
when I saw him.
Yeah, but he came cutting.
And I said, did you know that you're in a nature preserve where bicycles are not allowed?
Yeah. Well, he knew all perfectly.
He got very upset with me.
Yeah, I know. But he knew very well. He didn't say, no, that's... See, like, if I made a mistake like that, you see, I'd be going, wow, I got to get out of here. Sorry about that.
Well, there's a lot of signage in Alexander Wilderness Park.
He knew only too well. So he was a real chimp, and Pauline will have more to say about him. He said he was saying all these things. He didn't realize that Pauline was my wife. And I said, so did she have blonde hair? I didn't notice. A camera? Yeah, she took a picture. Yeah, no kidding. And then I said, that's my wife. And eventually he said, can you apologize to your wife? Apology means nothing to me unless it's two things. I'm sorry I did it, and it'll never happen again. Did he come out? We were going the only way out of there, really, that you should take with a bike. And we didn't see hide nor hair.
Well, you shouldn't take any